Hi everyone, my name is Nele and I'm from Germany. I'm a veterinarian, and for everyone that doesn't know me, I'm the host of this Agri-Comfort webinar. This is already the 6th edition. Today we're going to talk about heat abatement in calves, so very seasonal topic fitting to the month of July. With me here today is Gerwin. Gerwin Meesters. He is from Agri-Plastics Netherlands and Germany. Hi, Gerwin. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to start sharing my screen here, and off we go. Okay, today we're going to talk, like I said, we're going to talk about heat abatement in calves, and we want to give you a couple, we want to talk about why is this important. We want to talk about the consequences of heat stress to calves and what you can do to avoid that, and give you a couple of examples from our customers and clients that in our opinion found a good solution to keep their calves cool in hot summers. Yeah, so I already said, my name is Nele, veterinarian from Germany, working for Agri-Plastics and Agri-Comfort alike. And with me is Gerwin. And as you can see, Gerwin and I are working together quite a bit. This picture was taken at a trade show in Leipzig, Germany last year. And yeah, so we're usually on the road together or on trade shows together in Germany and the Netherlands. Gerwin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your connection to agri-plastics and calf housing?
Yeah, my name is Gerwin Meesters. Most of the German and English-speaking people also pronounce as Gerwin. I accept it. It's a lot easier than the pretty hard Dutch G, so never mind. I'm in the business since 2010 already. I'm calf housing specialist for Agri-Plastics Netherlands, and our territory is the Netherlands, of course, Belgium and Germany. And like Nele said, we are doing lots of trade shows together in Germany. Sometimes together in the Netherlands too, but mostly Germany.
Yeah. Right, and yeah, and I invited you today to talk about this topic of heat abatement in calves, because you not only promote agri-plastics products, but have the full calf range, basically, a full solution is what you promote to farmers, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we don't need to detail that because we're going to talk about this in the presentation, but basically all the products that we're talking about here is something that you're familiar with and put already in place on farms. Okay, let's get started. Well, I would like to start with a little interactive tool. I would like to ask our listeners a question. I would just kind of start the poll here. What temperature do you think is already heat stress for calves? And because that temperature varies a little bit. Let's just say a 4-week-old calf, like the ones in the picture here. Which temperature, from which temperature up does it start? Just for a comparison, I'm in Southwest Germany right now. So I checked the weather here today, and the weather app said it's 27 degrees Celsius here. It doesn't really feel that warm to me. I think there's a nice breeze going on. That's quite okay. Just give it a moment for people to choose. And I'm just gonna, in a minute now, I'm just gonna close the results. And I would say, so yeah, the people that we have here are quite smart. Yes, indeed. There is no real scientific study on that. Every study determined it a little different. But what most studies found is that there are negative effects on the calf's body starting from 25 degrees 77 degrees of Fahrenheit on. And these are always pre-weaned calves. The bigger the calf, the lower the temperature, as it is stressful for them. So like I said, it's 27 degrees right now. For me, that doesn't feel like overly hot, but a calf would already start to experience mild signs of heat stress if it would be exposed to this temperature. What kind of consequences would we suffer from, or would the calf suffer from if it would be exposed to higher temperatures than 25 degrees Celsius? There are, like I said, there's not a lot of data to it, but there are two main studies that I want to present to you today. One was executed from UC Davis in 2018. They looked at 4 different farms in central California where it is quite hot. And the main thing that they found is that heat definitely affects the calf health. They found that high daily temperatures were associated with a higher risk of respiratory disease, and they found that that was the main factor on all the parameters that they tested. So that had the highest association rate. And they also found that the temperature in the microclimate, so for example, like in the picture in the hutch, has a bigger effect than the general daily temperature. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's the ambient temperature that the calf feels. It's the same for us. If we're forced to be in the sun all day, it's worse. It feels worse for us than if we could choose to go into the shade. And the second study that I want to present to you today is a study that was just released in February of this year. And it was executed by the University of Florida over a longer period of time, but they just released the study this year. And they found that they compared calves that were cooled to calves that were exposed to heat stress. And they found that the calves that were exposed to heat stress had a higher risk of getting a fever and an infection. And they also found that the weaning weight and the feed intake in the calves that weren't cooled were lower than compared to the calves that were cooled. So both of these studies will be linked in. I have linked. Will be linked in the video that I upload in a couple of days. I can also send it out in the follow-up email if you want. They are publicly available. These are peer-reviewed studies. So this shows that even though we think calves are small and they rather need a lot of help, and people always talk about that they need to be warm in winter, it also has a significant effect on the calves if they're too hot. Not just on cows, where we know this for a long time already, it's also very relevant in calves. And we should look at trying to avoid that, trying to keep their ambient temperature to a relatively modest level. And for that, I want to ask you another question before we go into the solutions part of this presentation. I want to ask you about what kind of signs does the calves show when it's experiencing heat stress. And the options are it has a high respiratory rate, it has a high heart rate, it's breathing through the mouth instead of just the nose, it has a reduced appetite, and it's lethargic, or all of the above. Do you have a guess on that, Gerwin?
I just have something in my screen that says I'm not allowed to participate in this panel.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. Never been a panelist before, I guess. Well, I think we have a clear image here on how our listeners are feeling about this, and I'm guessing that the two people that answered on the other two things maybe did not read all the way to the end before they answered, because this is a single choice question. Yeah, the answer is definitely all of these signs are signs of heat stress. They do not need to all show up in the same time. They're not in the right order. Every calf is individual and might show heat stress a little differently, but generally this is the list of signs that a calf will give you if it's suffering from heat stress, and you should do something about this when you see your calves showing these signs. Okay, so what can you do? And generally the answer is to alleviate heat stress is you can give out some shade, you can increase the airspeed, or you can actively cool. And actively cooling, I already put it in brackets here because I think there's like one farm in the Arabian Emirates that has an air-conditioned barn for cows. But I don't think that is really an option to a normal farmer. I think I know that this farm belongs to the government in the Emirates, and it was more a project to secure the food supply at any cost, literally, instead of being economically sufficient. So the two sufficient options that we have are shade and airspeed. And I would like to present to you some options that me and Gerwin are usually promoting to farmers in Germany and the Netherlands. So one is for indoor barns. This is actually a barn right next door to your warehouse, right, Gerwin?
Yeah, it's only 300 meters from here.
Yeah, I'm just going to replay this. So you can increase the airspeed. So in a barn, you can add positive tube ventilation, which is a positive pressure tube ventilation, which has the big benefit of distributing the air very gradually and draft-free in winter, which is the main reason why it's put in most of the barns. And with our system, we have the option to put it onto a cooling setting in summer. And for that, we have the tubes right over the pens or over the groups, and point the air directly at the calves with a very high speed. And these are like kind of the general parameters that we're using. And Gerwin, you already installed a couple of these systems.
Yes,
the first ones in some of the first ones in Europe. And can you tell me a little bit about what did you see with those flap duct installations in the Netherlands and Germany?
Well, what we saw after the installation is that every farmer noticed that they needed a lot less medicines to keep their calves healthy. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that is really a sign that this system is improving the health of the animals. The summer just started here in the Netherlands, so a lot of farmers had a couple of months experience already on the winter setting. But even on the winter setting, you could see that calves really love to lay underneath that tube. For instance, one project that we did in March, we went for a coffee, the tube was just hanging and the fan was rolling, but we didn't finalize the whole project. After 15 minutes, we came back and almost every calf was laying in his cubicle underneath the tube.
Yeah, and that was an issue that the farmer had before, right? That the calves did not lay in the cubicles. So
they lay a lot on the slatted floor. Yeah, that was a big problem in this particular project. And the calf health in general was a big problem, and they needed a lot of antibiotics to keep the calves from getting pneumonia. And since we're using this system, the farmer told me they haven't used any antibiotics in their calf barn anymore. So that's a big plus, a real big plus.
Yeah, and it's and I think it's a very important point in the design of this flap duct system. One of the main philosophies that we're promoting is that the tubes are pointed, that they're placed directly over the calves. They're not like in the middle over the alleyway, kind of pointing sideways, the air is pointing sideways. They're directly over the calves. Air's aiming, sorry, that was my dog. Air's aiming down directly onto the calf.
Yeah, you can really see it in the summer that the calves are like a big. It's almost like a train. They are laying next to each other or behind each other, all underneath the tube. So, and they have plenty of enough space in these barns, so they can choose if they want to lay underneath the tube or beside it, and they all choose to lay underneath it. So that's a sign. The calves can't trick us if they show us that they like it. And
exactly. Yeah. And then we also have the solution for outdoor hutches, of course, which is where the air quality in general is a little better because the calves can go outside, as you see, for example, on this farm. But the main obstacles is to give sufficient shade, to have enough ventilation openings, and to orient the hutches in the correct order. And maybe, Gerwin, since you're the specialist about the calf hutches, maybe you tell us a little bit about the different pointers here.
Yeah, of course, there are a lot of different brands, but what our hutch makes it special is that it's blocking the sunlight. And in this picture, you can see a picture. The picture on top is pretty common calf housing in Europe. It's a crate with a barrel inside which can contain 1,000 liters of fluid. Mm-hmm. A lot of farmers here use it as a calf hutch. This system has one big downside, and it doesn't block the sun. And as you can see in the picture, I'm holding a flashlight on the inside of the tank, and you can see a big white round exactly at the spot where the flashlight is. And that's a big problem, not only in summer, but over the whole year. Those tanks and even some hutches who have the same material heat up pretty fast. So if you compare that to the plastic of the hutch that is in the second picture, that is blocking the sunlight completely. And and we had some shows. Sorry. We had some shows in the past where we put a thermometer on the roof of a hutch and one inside the hutch. There was one very hot show day a couple of years ago here in the Netherlands, and we had 45 degrees in the sun, and in the shade inside the hutch it was only 28 degrees. So that's a real big difference.
Absolutely. I think we posted that on Facebook even, like we got a lot of, And I read in a study from the University of Pennsylvania where they compared translucent hutches to non-translucent. They didn't like specifically say what, but they found that the translucent hutches heated up between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius over the course of the day, like more than the opaque hutches. And that can make a big difference to the calf. Yeah, and then there also, the material matters on more aspects than just the opacity. I would say it's also important that it's reflecting, like in this picture from Italy, you can see that's a sunlight because it's the material is white, it's just been reflected off. And the PE plastic that the Agri-Plastics hutches are made of is non-heat absorbing, like maybe metal would be. And so if you touch it, it always feels relatively cool, not hotter than the shade temperature of the day usually is, right?
Yeah, that's true. And you can even see in the morning and in the evening that the temperature outside in the sun will rise and go down pretty fast. But you can see that the temperature in the hutch will only rise a little bit and only starts to cool down at the moment that the outside temperature is getting lower than the inside temperature of the hutch. So even on days which aren't hot but are sunny and cloudy, it means that the temperature in your hutch stays more stable too.
Yeah,
and that makes sense to have a more stable temperature during the day for your calves. It's like comparing getting in your car with the air conditioning on setting freeze cell, and then after a 15 minutes getting out into the heat sun again, and then after 15 minutes getting back in your car again.
Yeah.
If you're doing that the whole day, you will be sick the next day. That's exactly the same with those calves.
Yeah. My car is also a good example. Like I always say, like I have a car without air conditioning, and I try to not park it in the sun, or try to park it in shade, because with the windows alone, it heats up quite nice, because the windows are, as they are supposed to be, translucent, and it's just like a greenhouse. It collects the energy of the sun and heats up over the day, the course of the day. And then a lot of studies ask for lifting up the back or putting the backside of hutches onto bricks to allow more airflow. That's actually written in a lot of the studies that I've read. What's the solution that Agri-Plastics has for that? Do you need to do that?
Yeah, well, that's a feature that we came up with, I think it's already 6 or 7 years ago, as an option. You could order some extra bottom ventilation fans in the hutch, but it seems to be so popular that it's a standard right now. So every single hutch has it, and and those 2 discs on the left and the right side of the hutch, and it makes it possible to have more airflow off the bottom of your hutch, and it cools down calves more, but it also makes the air quality in the hutch better. I always say the bad air will be ventilated out of the hutch eventually through the roof, but then it already passed the nose of the calf. So the sooner you get the bad air out, the better it is.
Exactly, and like all the noxious gases like ammonia and carbon dioxide that the calf's breathing out and stuff like that, it's coming out of the bedded pack, calf's breathing it out. It can just, the fresh air can hit the calf in the nose as it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's also all the other ventilation openings, as you can see in the picture.
Yeah, we have a lot. We have ventilation in the roof that that works like a chimney. So it basically sucks the air out of the hutch. It's covered on all sides, so you won't have the risk of cold air falling inside the hutch. But like I said, it works like a chimney. So it doesn't matter from which direction the wind comes, it always sucks the air out of the hutch. And then the rear door, which you can also use for putting in bedding into your huts, has a rich fan too. And the nice thing about that is a lot of farmers are a little bit afraid that it will cause some draft in the hutch. But I will always put it outside on a windy day and open it and just invite the farmer to come with me inside the hutch. Well, it's big enough, so why not? Yeah. And you can just feel, if you put your nose straight behind that vent, you will feel the wind. But like 10 or 15 centimeters away from it, you don't feel it at all.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty great. And I have to say, like every time I go to farms that have the hutches in use, those doors and vents are always open. Usually, maybe the side door is closed because it's a rainy day, as it is 50% of the time in Germany. But those little ridge vents and stuff like that, they're all open. Yeah. And then it's also very important, like how you use the hutch, kind of. Right?
Yeah. That might be even more important than a lot of other things, because if you put them in the wrong spot in your yard, you will not like it.
Yeah.
It's not only parts where rainwater goes through, but also to which direction is the opening of the hutch facing.
Yeah, exactly.
And we always advise to put the opening to the east to keep the hot midday and evening sun out of the hutch. And that's really a thing that you can have a hutch that is made from opaque plastic, but if you allow the sun to come in through the front door, it's no good at all. So
yeah,
that's really important.
I accidentally just clicked on the slide, but what I was just wanting to show with that picture that we saw before is that the calves actually like to lay in the hutch even though they have a bedded area outside here. But most of the calves, for resting, they chose to be in the hutch on an obviously very warm day. I was there, I took the picture there myself. It was 28 degrees Celsius. The calves wanted to sleep in the hutch. Nobody forced them to do. So that's a picture that we like to see.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, and then another idea that I just wanted to talk about here is using brushes for calves. As you can reckon, like we already talked in a couple of previous webinars about topics that we're covering here today, like the ventilation system, but also the brushes, but we only talked about brushes for cows. Basically the same benefits that we see in cows, we also see in calves that can, or that are offered a brush, and especially bigger calves, as you can see in the picture here. And the main reason why brushes are good for keeping calves cool is that calves go through a fur change when they're growing up. And that excess fur isn't helpful in helping the calf cool. A cow cannot sweat on their body. They can only use their nose and some very, very limited sweat glands to cool them down. So they are, they need to be able to get the hair, the heat off by radiation. And if the fur is insulating them real good, and there's a lot of dead excess fur on their, like layered on them, that heat cannot radiate off their bodies. And the brush can help help them change their fur coats a little quicker. And they really like it, and they really like to use it. And also it exfoliates the skin, so dead skin cells have been brushed off. And also it alleviates parasite pressure, which is quite, it doesn't really necessarily goes with the heat abatement thing, but the flies and all of that parasites are on high pressure status in summer. Sorry, I don't know. So that helps the calf feel more comfortable in general in summer. So especially for calf barns, like you see here in the picture with bigger calves, that might be a good solution. Yeah, now we want to talk a little bit about farms that we've been to that are customers of ours that have found a good solution to keep their calves all year round, but we obviously now want to focus on what they're doing for the calves in summer. Why don't you talk a little bit about this farm here, Gerwin? I'm just going to move us over about this farm here in the Netherlands.
Yeah, we did this project in, I think it was January this year. As you can see in the picture, this farm has a roof over the group hutches. The main reason for doing this was that we couldn't get the hutches to face the east in this case.
Yeah.
On the other side of the alley, there's a row of single hutches, and the farmer and his wife would like to have the hutches facing each other for better observation. I totally agree on that. And one of the reasons to put the roof over there too was that they came from a barn. Inside the barn, they had a lot of problems with pneumonia. Also, the heat in the summer, it was low, a lot of animals in there. So we convinced them to go outside. We even tried a group hutch of us. But the idea of being outside in the open air, do all the work, was a little thing over there. And so we suggested to combine the plus sides of both systems. So you have the unlimited fresh air hutches, and you have just a single roof to keep the rain out, but also the sun. In this case, you could see this picture was taken in the evening, around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. As you can see, the shade on the pavement is from the single hutches. So these hutches are facing west right now, and the roof prevents the sun from
getting into the hutches.
Getting inside the hutch in this case.
Yeah.
So it keeps the hutches a lot cooler too.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not that the roof is necessarily or is necessary to keep the hutches cool themselves. As you can see in this picture, that they're like not underneath the roof to create extra shade on top of the hutch. It's just to prevent the sun from shining into the door, basically, right?
Yeah, that's true. If you could, if you're facing the hutch the other way around, so in this case 180 degrees turned, then you don't need a roof to keep the sun out. That's and to keep the rain out. That's true.
Yeah, it's cool.
I must say, most of our customers don't have a roof.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's also a costly thing to build a roof and the hutch and all of that. Yeah. But it's definitely a very nice solution. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this project. I visited this farm with Dr. Leidemann last October, just after World Dairy Expo. It's a very nice family farm. They just rebuilt this complete calf barn for 150 calves, completely new. And as you can see, they have individual pens for the calves, and then they have the flap duct ventilation on top of it. On top of every row of pens, they have 4 tubes in total. And I really like this barn and this picture because it shows how this could look, actually, because people are always like looking at me a little quizzingly when I say that we need more than 1 tube in a barn. But if you have a building this size for 150 calves, you do need more than 1 tube. It wouldn't be sufficient to just put 1 tube in the middle of this barn to ventilate the whole barn. And one main reason is that you want to alleviate heat stress in summer by pushing the air directly down onto the calf pens. And I thought that was very well done in this kind of scenario. As you know, America, Wisconsin has a continental climate, so it is very hot in summer and very cold in winter. The fans are running 24/7 all year round, and they're very happy with how the air quality and lung health status in this barn is. And then there's another project I wanted to share with you. I actually also took this picture. I did climb onto a 20-meter high tower to take it. Felt a little bit risky. While I was doing it, felt like a better idea before I was doing it, but turned out to be a great picture. This is a great farm in Russia. This is a beef rearing facility. So they raise calves from 25 different dairies, Holstein bull calves, and they arrive in a landing area, and then they move into those individual hutches. Those are SL hutches for their whole weaning period. And you can see that these hutches are all facing one direction to suit the perfect orientation. So all of these rows, the openings are facing in that direction. And again, Russia is getting really hot in summer, like up to 40 degrees Celsius, no problem, and minus 30 degrees in winter. And they have tremendous results with this. They have under 2% lethality in the calves in that period. And that's even though they are getting the bull calves from dairy farms that are definitely not taking the best care of the calves in terms of colostrum care and so on. And I do think that their feeding program and their housing program are the main reasons for this. It's just a very good example of a large dairy or calf rearing facility. And then we have another project that's maybe closer to something that you would see in the Netherlands too, right, Gerwin? Like this is from Canada. This is also more like a family-sized farm, kind of a similar idea, like what you showed us from the Netherlands, with the hutches and the roof. It's also group hutches and individual hutches. We now showed pictures with roofs, but I think I showed pictures before throughout the presentations where the hutches were just without the roofs, and you also would say that this is what you see most on farms.
Yeah, of course. it's designed to be outside, and of course a roof, a lot of things easier. For instance, staying in straw feed, it's always dry.
Yeah, exactly.
And farmers stay dry too when you do it.
I feel like that is the main reason, that the comfort of the feeders is
yeah, well, but I think
consideration.
I think that's important too, because you can say a hutch is the best for a calf. It is, but if it means that a farmer is putting less effort to the calves because it's raining the whole week, then at the other row, it's not better for the calf.
Yeah.
And if you can solve that by putting a roof on top of it, it doesn't have to be. And of course, this one in the picture is great, and you could probably even stack straw upstairs there if you want.
Yeah, and I think the main reason for this is you have to remember that this is Canada, or not the Netherlands. They do have a lot of snow. And what's happening here? And they do have a lot of snow, and they're trying to not get the snow into the hutches. And this is one solution, to have the roof on top of it to kind of keep the calves safe from snow entering into the hutch. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is what we wanted to talk about. Do you have anything to add that I kind of forgot to ask you, or any stories to share?
Not right now. It probably pops in my mind in like an hour from now, but
okay. Yeah, let's just look at if any of our listeners still have any questions, feel free to still use the question section. I see that we have a question here that we're happy to answer. It's, what type of material for hutches is best, and how much temperature can be reduced? The hutches that we promote, the Agri-Plastics hutches, are made out of polyethylene, 100%, and it's a specialized plastic to suit this purpose. So it's not recycled or anything. It is recyclable, but it's not recycled plastic. And it has all the qualities that we said before. It's opaque and reflects the sunlight and so on. And it's very sturdy. So it has a very, very good durability. And we give a 10-year warranty on all the products, because we're so convinced that this is holding up even to the toughest of tasks, staying alive on a farm. Yeah, and how much can the temperature be reduced? Well, it's not actively cooling. It's not reducing the temperature that we feel outside, but by generating shade for the calf, it doesn't overheat from the sunlight, and it doesn't heat up. So it stays at the shade temperature, outside temperature, and it stays at a relatively. It heats up, like the temperature in the hutch rises relatively slowly and goes down relatively slowly in comparison to something that would be heating up like a translucent hutch or something like that. Okay, I think that is it for today, and thank you for listening in. Yeah, I wanted to mention that that you today saw me and Gerwin here, or I don't know where to move us. Maybe like this, maybe like this. And that we do have a larger team. Obviously, you met a couple of us during my webinar series already, and we're mainly here for you in North America, but also internationally. And if you have any question, just contact us through our website or the email address, and we are happy to help you. And I, of course, want to announce the next webinar of this series. It's going to be in August, because now we're switching to a monthly rhythm for these webinars. As usual, you will be informed through our email campaigns and social media and all of that. But as listeners to this webinar, you get this information here first. In the end of August, me and Martin Volkema we'll talk about sand saver and how to implement good sand beddings in your cow barn. So make sure that you sign up for that too. Okay, well, Gerwin, thank you again for joining me today.
You're very welcome.
For taking the time to talk about heat stress in calves, and I'm personally looking forward to our next show, so we can have a post-presentation beer as we had in that picture in Belgium.
It might take a while, but yeah.
It might take a while. Let's hope for EuroTier in February.
Let's hope so too.
Let's hope so. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.